Okay, here we are, distinguished participants, dear ladies and gentlemen, and dear colleagues. It's an honor being here today with this event. It's a joint collaboration between Womenvai and the University of Bari. We are guests by the Italian Institute of Culture, Italian Cultural Institute in New York, and we are really proud of being here in this beautiful building and for our activities. So I would like to particularly to thank the director of Italian Cultural Institute of New York, Professor Fabio Finotti, and his staff. In particular, I had a relationship with Marina Manarino, who helped us a lot for organizing this event. So many thanks to all who were supporting us with the organization of this event. This is part of the CVW 68 of the United Nations. So we are really proud of being part of this activity of the Commission of the State of Women, organized by the United Nations. The conference has been opened just yesterday, and it's a very important topic, especially for us, for women, but also for men, because we need to bring a certain balance between rights and activities, and also the role that we have in our society. So it's good to talk about it. It's the best way, I think, to open our mind and to have a discussion by comparing our ideas on what we think about this, and especially for recovering the gender gap. So we need to consider and to identify all the differences that we have in order to take them into account, not because we have to underline differences, but we need to take into consideration the different expectations, different abilities, and no one can be excluded only on the basis of gender. Absolutely. And also there are, as we will see during the discussion today, there are some other elements that can bring us to have a certain differences, or to discriminate people according to some other elements which are characteristics or peculiarities of people, but it is not the right way of thinking for providing services, for including people in our society. So we will see for the different lens of view how we can recover this gap. And so I would like to give the floor to Yvette Ramos, president of Womenvai, and in order to introduce the topic, and then we can start with the purpose of our conference. Thanks again to all of you for taking part in this event, and I hope that we can have a success, and also we can bring some results to in order to recover this gap. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. This is an honor to be here with you today. I'm just going to open my slides. If you can just show me. Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Elisabetta. So today, at the occasion of the Commission on Status of Women 68th General Assembly of the United Nations here in New York, we are very proud to be here, hosted by the Italian Cultural Institute, and we'll have a series of panelists who will give us a speech. And I would like, yes, to introduce the topic, which is basically going to speak about strategies to mainstream gender equality and equity, measure what you treasure, and implement these effective tools. Just a few words before we start on Womenvai. So we started this adventure of this NGO that has gained the special status of observation to the United Nations ECOSOC. That was already 5-6 years ago. And last year, that's what happened. We got that ECOSOC status, which allows us to be in the United Nations different events all around the world, with a full delegation. I'm very proud that you are here with us. Some of us couldn't make it, but that's very good already. We have like 10 people in the General Assembly, so that is great. A few words, as I said, we are an NGO constituted 6 years ago with 18 co-founders from 12 countries around the world. We created that NGO to voice women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math around the world. And we did it with men. We are not against men, and we are very proud to have a few men in this audience today. We are a global NGO that brings technological solutions, because we believe that this is an absolute if we want to progress within the society. But of course, we do align with the Sustainable Development Goals, and we try to build a better environment and society, which is, of course, we know, a challenge. So we have a few statistics that, of course, we would like to share with you. The pay gap worldwide is still around 20%, around 17%, 18% in Europe, for example. This is at the same level of education, same time of work, same skills, same diplomas. So still we have a gap in pay, which is obviously not fair. 70% of the world population who live with less than $1 per day are women. So girls and women, we are very, very poor if we compare with the men. 1 out of 3 women in the world has been exposed to sexual and physical violence in their lives. So this happens still very much, too much for us. And it's not only in professional arenas, but of course in the family arenas, personal lives. So this is absolutely not normal. And less than 20% of the world land is owned by women, when we know that, of course, if you want to feed your families, your children, you have to have some land to grow some, vegetables, and be able to own your own land is still very much a challenge. These are statistics from the World Bank 3 years ago. There is, of course, this dimension of the glass ceiling. Glass ceiling is very important. It's, of course, symbolic. It's like you want to hit those leadership positions. You want to go to the management positions. You want to attain some objectives in your professional and personal life, but you are blocked. This means that basically you are blocked because of that glass ceiling. You see those top positions there, but you cannot go there because there's a concrete barrier that does not allow you to go to those positions. There is, of course, a series of barriers that we need to overcome, and to have an action plan, a gender action plan in your daily lives, in the United Nations, in your associations, your universities, your faculties, etc. We need to address the root of the problem. Jacqueline Laufer, who is a sociologue from France, who has worked on those gender type based barriers, has worked on 2 different kind of categories of barriers. We have those, and I'm sure that some of you will say everything is social, everything is cultural, everything is, but we find that there are some structural barriers. In a country where girls cannot go to education, this is a structural barrier. Of course, it is cultural, it is religious, some say, but it is still something that is structural. This means that you cannot go because the law does not permit you to go to school or to dance or to be creative, or does not apply to girls sometimes, unfortunately, also to men. But these are those policies that do not exist. And well, because of that, you cannot proceed with your life, personal and professional. Societal barriers, of course, we know very much what it is, and it starts by education. When you grow a little boy or a little girl still in our families. And even me, I mean, even though I'm a very strong feminist, I've got boys and girls, and it's true that we have to be very careful to raise them with a very equal balance. And it's still very much a challenge when you know that, you put pink dress for girls, they have makeup, etc. And it's very much difficult for you to say, no, I should not raise my kid like that. I should raise them in a very gender equal, balanced way. So once you've done that diagnosis, of course, and then you put some indicators there, and we'll discuss that today on that actually, then you can measure what you treasure, you can measure what is at stake, and then you can overcome and have an action plan. And this action plan is really finally at all levels of your life, at all your life path. Different steps. So it starts by childhood, adolescence. When you're a teen, it's very important that you get the strong values around this equality and equity. And of course, at the personal life, and while you are training, that is as a very beginner or as a professional, you've been trained, you have to also get some equal chances, and of course during these professional careers. So what Womenvai offers, and it's very interesting because I put those logos there, we offer KidVai tool, and we hope to train the trainers this 15th March. I hope some of you will be here. Within the United Nations headquarters, we'll try to have a train the trainer session. And we did that already with girls in many places, of course, in developed countries, in Switzerland, Geneva, and we did it also in Benin, in Mauritania, and we found that these young girls, aged 12 or 10 to 15, finally they'd be thinking that my career can be different from what I thought. Maybe if I do a little bit more on my homework at school as well, then I can train myself a little bit more in mathematics, etc., and be a physician, and be a doctor, and be an engineer, be a technician when I'm grown. So this is very interesting. Also, with the Womenvai Academy, we offer workshops at professional career, trying to help those ladies who have projects of setting up a company that uses technology for their socioeconomic development of their country. Of course, we did that also mostly in least developed countries, but we're very open to do it in other places in the world. So that will be the end of my introduction. Sorry, I was a bit too long, but we'll come back to the indicators later on. And I'll now give the speech back to our moderator, Elisabetta, who will continue with her presentation. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Yvette, for your very clear introduction presentation. It was absolutely outstanding because you gave us the possibility of thinking about some figures which are very representative of our situation. There is probably not too much to say, especially in this sort of discussion, but few figures let us know and also think about the concrete situation that we are experimenting. So now it's my turn. I have to present myself. And I'm going to just the discussion will be on gender and mobility, quality and equity, quantitative tools for measuring women's sustainable mobility. So the idea, I am sharing it in particular with Lidia Zakowska, this topic. Fortunately, we had the occasion of meeting several years ago, just on a cost action. That was a very lucky event. And we started working together, especially on the equity issues, because the cost action was just just on equity. And since then, we develop a lot of research, scientific research, by bringing our results in conferences and as well in scientific papers that we publish in some journals, and we presented it also in conferences. So the idea is just to make some reflection about the differences that we can record, even when we ask for mobility services. And we have differences because we need something which is really peculiar for women and for men. And also because we have different travel patterns, and as I will show you, men have a more straightforward route instead of women, and we still record these differences. We are trying to recover this, but unfortunately there is a huge gap between what we are asking as women in comparison with men. And so I will focus just on a few elements, because of course we can talk a lot on the issues, but I will focus just on a few keywords which are related to the culture and university role, and so what we can do, because we can support the policymakers with our suggestion, because sometimes they really don't know what to do and they do not know the topic. So as researchers, we can support the policymakers by giving them some ideas and providing some scientific research on what can be done. And gender issues, of course, and we'll talk a little bit about these aspects. Geographical areas, we're discussing also, because the focus is very particular, because the mobility is completely different from one area to another. But even, you know, in the same country or in the same aggregate areas like Europe or some other areas, we have completely different behavior, different mentality about how to ask and how to provide services. So it's very interesting, you know, to bring some case studies which can be best practices, or you know, just practices that can let us reflecting on the issues, and also some methodological issues, as Yvette was saying, because we need, you know, to be rigorous in supporting, you know, our suggestion, because we need to provide some results which can be really helpful, but that they are, you know, very anchored to the reality. It is not, you know, something which is external, it's a dream or something like that. It should be based on methodological tools. So yeah, there are some indication with regard to what the university or researchers are providing in terms of empirical studies and results. And so when we would like to study the gender issues and gap, and we want to implement the equity and quality concepts, we need to consider at least some elements which can, unfortunately, sometimes marginalize some groups, because they are based on some elements which are related to gender, to class, to ethical divisions, which are reflecting also in demand for services. And so we need to consider, at least as I was saying, different areas. I mean, normally if we look at the literature review related to these issues, we find lots of cases which are based on Western countries. But, you know, we need to open our mind and to see also the other areas which are sometimes penalized by also the idea that we have, you know, about the transport or mobility demand and the services that are provided. So I would like to launch the idea also to study other case studies, to study other areas, because there is a very huge interest. I was giving a guest lecture in the summer, and there were PhD students. They were very, very interested in these topics, and you know, by opening their mind on the Arabic world, and also in relation with some other geographical areas. So we need to study and to work on these aspects. With regard to gender issues, we also need to underline that if we have a look at the literature again, we can say that there are differences in terms of travel behavior, and also there are some other macroeconomic variables like income, and also some other elements like the aggregate consumption, which may affect the demand for mobility, and also education and age are other two elements that we need to consider when we want to study the gender issues related to mobility. Both income and education are positively associated with car use as age until the old age. In addition, some other most recent studies have focused also on daily activity patterns, and we may record really a difference in terms of the combination of activities that still women have instead of men. Even though, you know, we are trying to recover, but men, I don't want to say, but, you know, they have a very straightforward pathway from home to work, maybe, you know, gyms, sometimes social lives, and that's it, more or less. Women have a chaotic pathway. They bring kids to school, and they look after parents or those in needs in family, shopping, lots of commitments related to housekeeping, and then they go to work, and then again the circle, you know, for all the other activities. So, you know, we cannot force women to have the same services as men, as far as there is this huge difference. First of all, we have to remove, you know, these burdens that are on women. We need to balance the activities between men and women, and then we need to provide services which are strictly related to what is the route that women and men are using. And with regard to geographical areas, as I said, I mean, there are really huge differences, and I really like the way of studying because we can learn a lot about it. And in particular, we can show some of the results that are coming from some studies, and there are, you know, some indication that comes as rules, and women say that they make fewer work-related trips than men normally. And there is conduct more local trips than the men, and are more likely to be responsible for private sphere tasks than men, and suffer from the limited access to private mechanical transportation. And this is another topic. I mean, I do not have much time to work on this and to show you the case study of the transport sector, but we did it in the past in Bari last year, and the transport sector is one of the most sector where there is a very low presence of women in comparison with men, only 20% in the sector. So this is really a huge gap that we need to recover. And so by considering these in Western countries, so you can consider in other countries and in other areas what is the situation. So we need to investigate on how we use times, how we allocate it, and how we can provide the services. And also we can consider some other areas like the Egyptians or other areas which are focused by the United Nations Development Program, for example, from with regard to Jordan, because they are entering the labor market. So they are asking for new services in comparison with the past. So we need to focus on this because we need really to allocate the proper services for those new needs in these areas. So think about this. And with particular regard to methodological issues, as Yvette was saying at the beginning, we have a lot of tools that we can use in order to provide some indication to policymakers, and also to have a clear framework in order to provide proper services to population, regardless the gender. Some of these are related to some key performance indicators that are need to be specific, measurable, attainable, and also relevant for the policymakers, because otherwise, I mean, they are completely useless. So because we can use a lot of tools, you know, but the way that we use them, they have to be useful. Otherwise, they have no sense. Of course, in quantitative terms, we can measure. I don't want to say everything, but you know, there are now methodologies that can transform qualitative aspects in quantitative elements, but they have to have a sense. Otherwise, I mean, it's completely useless to work on those indicators. So the best thing that you can do in relation with what the scientific production is suggesting us is to use composite indicators. So not only, you know, the gender indicator or some of these indicators that we normally use for given an idea or a measure of the gender gap. We need to combine, you know, the single elements all together to give them a weight in order to have a complete and complex idea of the gender issues as a whole. So this is the future, and I mean, looking at the literature, and what is missing actually is just the measure of composite indicator applied to gender issues, and to complete in a proper way the idea that we have on these issues. So I will stop here, and then we can have some discussion further at the end of the day. Okay, I will I will ask Lydia Zakowska to Lydia to give her presentation. Lydia is a professor at the Krakow University of Technology. She is first of all a friend, and then she's a colleague of mine, and she's a really delicious person because she has always a positive thought in order to overcome some of the problems in scientific terms. So even though we analyze, you know, the problems that we have, in particular in the transport sector, she always finds some positive solutions. So I hope that some suggestions can come also today, apart from the flag.
The positive solution is that we are here thanks to Lydia.
Wait, actually, Lydia. Okay, and I will give the floor to Lydia for her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come, you have to talk here.
Elizabeth, and dear all, what should I say after such a speech? She just explained everything I have in my mind, so probably it will be only some small talks on realization on projects based on the studies and analysis we did. Anyway, gender-related sustainable solutions, how they are implemented for the smart cities planning. That's what we are making now based on the project from my university, from Krakow University of Technology, the one which is in the old historical Krakow city with the pretty unique UNESCO-based urban planning of medieval time. So it's very much connected to how we can and what really can we afford within sustainability for those cities, because we are not to put more asphalt or more speed in the city. Everything goes like ahead. And this is very much in line with the common European thinking for the old type of cities, not for a huge modern New York or let's say other cities. Anyway, so that is what we are doing, and we have a common thoughts and common business in our research with Italians, and not only, but especially after years of our deep study with something that at the time we started, it was pretty modern. It was something like absolutely, oh, what you are doing about, who will be talking about equality in transportation? There is nothing like that. That was a so-called old masters, old guys, professor were talking to us. Anyway, a few years passed, let's say at least 10 together as we start with our European projects, making this, let's say, experimentally studies. And now no one thinks that it's anything wrong. We know that smart cities must integrate all components just to ensure the high quality of life, and they achieve economic solutions, ecological, especially, and social sustainability. And only thinking in such a way, I mean, multidisciplinary, in fact, we decided we have to work together with a broader area. I'm a transport engineer from Technical University. Elisabetta is from Aldo Moro from economy. Just coming to it, we still have some other components, and it's exactly those components which are showing what this sustainable concept is. We cannot change it. We can just use and feed all necessary prospects into realization of projects. Because in theory, we already know the concept is from 1992. So let's say it's nearly over 30 years now. Scientists and realizators of transportation and the program are taking care, let's say, between 10 up to 5 years now, more or less, in our countries. Of course, there are some places where this is still a new, not touched deal. But the progress is coming. What means the progress is coming? The engineering infrastructure development is something that, first of all, takes time for designing. Then, when it's designed today, it will be ready for realization in 3 or sometimes 5 years because of the procedure for ecology, for all other stuff. The world is changing during this time, but still the most important change has to be in our minds, which means that not only economy, but society and environmental components, if we want to catch together, so we have to think about continuous changing within social inclusion, which bring economic prosperity, about these business practices which will come together to go to drive for the environmental impact, and also for the long-term practices which will come into effect, because we cannot see the effect exactly the same day. Okay, we could see the great immediate great effect in case we shut down traffic in New York today. Okay, we say no traffic, no cars, cleaner air, but this is the net, okay? We cannot stop moving. Movement is and mobility is not only the human right, okay, of freedom, what we know here at the United Nations things, but especially for what we do. To concentrate only on one aspect never gave good things. That what happened, let's say, by now to this philosophy of building highways or thinking about strategy of how fast, how economy, etc. So in that way, now what we are doing, we have to think in composition. That's why I personally appreciate these SDGs as so valuable way of thinking. I mean, strategy of solving problems for urban life, because we can connect our all 17 sustainable development goals, looking for particular solution. This is only a small example that for the sustainable cities and communities, which is a goal number 11, this goes exactly in line with what we say gender equality, okay? Not only because we can show at least 4 of those coming together to the city components that has to match, but usually when we discuss the more of those sustainable things we can compose together within urban projects, the better it works. So finally, the one thing which I usually show is JEP, Gender Equality Plan. This is something that it's still within European strategy to put to every one university to every institution which leads with development of science and with application of science. I was happy to lead the 5-year-long project that was finalizing with this JEP for my university, but not exactly the JEP, and not gender equality plan, but general equality plan. Why? Because of, oh, we probably all know, because of the still existing social opportunity, opposition to gender as a goal is the same JEP, but it's general. It means for everyone, not saying the word gender, which is like a devil. And past times, now, after 2 years, it's not anymore said like that. People start to talk normally about that. When we are discussing some steps of realization, it's not my research responsibility now, but all those new groups of people dedicated at university components to keep for students, for research, for helping women to provide their career even during the maternity, etc. So it's all this group now is dealing with huge, let's say, progress. So if I could advise everyone, we should go this way, because United Nations is the right place where putting those components into these strategies, like gender equality plans, which belong to the groups and are obligatory. I mean, United Nations goals are obligatory, but majority of the world would like, but cannot provide. So that's something like of our own effect, just to make the steps not so different for men and women. And that's all what I can say. And thank you all, but especially thank you, Elisabetta. And I feel we can engage many more of this group to empower our study on coming to the cities which are sustainable world. Thank you.
Yeah, stay here, Lydia. I would like to thank Lydia, and also would like to ask her, just as she's here, if you think that we recover in real terms a bit of this gap according to the suggestion that we gave in the past, and we are supplying also to policymakers. Do you think that we are really implementing in real terms what we are suggesting? Apart from, I mean, I get some of your information on, you know, the balance and everything that is, say, obligatory for some institutions. But I would like to see if there is also the willingness, you know, by firms, by institution, to apply these concepts in the real terms. What do you think?
Application was not easy. It was so many opposition. Because of stereotypes, because of especially university like technology are dominated by men. Even we are not all. But what is important, even if at the beginning it seems very, very difficult, not on time, after 2 years, it opened mind of all, not only girls, students and women workers. It opened and changed mind of everywhere so much. So now discussion about this topic is just on. It's not like something, okay, good. I remember my first talk to my rector. I brought pretty a big sum of euro in thousands, in million, yeah, coming to university just to finance this study from the European project Horizon. And then he said, oh, congratulations, we have, you know, it's not, it's pretty rare. Oh, this topic, okay, but don't talk to anyone what it's about, you know? So now it's different. Now they are saying, okay, so even if it seems like not very, after some time, students decided to discuss, they talk to each other. Male students are taking care that some other colleague, let's say, behave not very nice to her student friend, and he said, don't you think that you have this, those things? So absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Even if you do not feel the effects are rapid, they are, because they change the mind. And then if the society, if the whole community, academic community change mind, it's like switch. Yeah. So that's how.
Thanks a lot, Lydia. Yeah, it's a very good contribution. Thanks a lot. Because I mean, things are really like this, and how to say, the model or the paradigm is just what Lydia was mentioning, and say bottom up model probably is working more than top down model. And I think that this is really an exercise. Okay, we can take some pictures later on after that.
Thank you so
Okay,
much. Did
thanks.
I deserve one of this?
Okay, sure. Well deserved, Lydia. Thanks a lot for your speech and for your contribution. So we need to go a bit further. I would like to ask Cristina from France, but I know that you are Italian. And it's after, okay. And many thanks for your presence here today and this institution. And I am really happy. I will give you the floor, and I am looking forward to listen to your contribution, because I am very curious about what you think about this topic. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am very proud to be part of this conference. So I am really very proud to be part of this conference organized by Womenvai in the context of the CSW 68 in New York, in this beautiful Italian cultural place. And thank you to give me the opportunity to present our actions. We are not researchers, we are people doing things on the ground. And it is very important, especially in this very particular period moment, because we are at an historic moment for humanity, because it's the first time that three events are working together. First, it's that we are aware of the end of humanity due to climate change for us, but especially for our children. Second, the role of women, thanks to the feminist movement, has become irreversible, even if we have a lot of issues everywhere on the planet. And third, the development of AI for the better, but also for worse. Because I am, and my organization, which is Arborus, we are positive. We believe that AI is the lever for equality and consequently for a world of peace. AI is an accelerator for information, but also for discrimination. I am convinced that it is still time to transform AI as an accelerator for equality. So I will switch. For this to happen, we need to know how to use AI and how to make AI truly inclusive. That means accessible to all without biases between women and men, of course, but between people with disability, LGBT, nationality, ethnicity, etc. And so, above all, AI needs to bring new values. The post-COVID society has highlighted new organizational system. For example, the most visible was Visio, and we have a Visio today, as well as new values, which in the workplace are called soft skills: listening, empathy, life balance, kindness, vivid sense to work and life, etc. These are the arguments that led our organization, Arborus, with the group Orange, to launch the first international charter for an inclusive AI in the middle of COVID 2020, under the patronage of the French government, as well as UN Women's Generation Equity Ambassador, Delphine O. This charter, organized around 7 principles, aims on the one hand to raise awareness among all players in the AI ecosystem, from its conception to its prescription, but also to provide methodological tools to achieve this with a specific international certification called GES, AI, Gender Equality International Standard for AI. And I will give you some information about this certification because it's linking what you, Elisabetta, and you, Lydia, you said before, the necessity to have KPIs, but we do it on the floor and in companies to have concrete actions. So the GES was created 15 years ago by myself at the demand of the European Commission and of big companies, international companies, to have a structuring tool for the D&I policy and the gender equality policy, starting always with gender. We analyze gender and disability, women and men with a disability, women and men with the ethnicity, LGBT, etc. So it's a very, very inclusive vision. It's a monitoring tool for companies because they have a reference document, which is like a very, very strong action plan with levels. So they improve the policy every year. And it's a measuring tool, and it's very important because it's not a self-evaluation, but it's an evaluation made by a third party. And the third party, for the moment, it's Bureau Veritas Certification, which is a leader of certification in the world. So it's very serious. And we can audit in 54 countries from now. It's not expensive, and it's very important to be very equal. It's a measuring tool, very specific, and we are the only to do it because we measure not only KPIs, because there is the mindset of people and the feeling of people. So we measure the impact on people. You can have the best process if nobody knows, if nobody understands, if there is a declic, as Lydia said before, we can have the best things. It's not enough. And we have 2 other specificity, very, very interesting. And Lydia spoke about the link between SDGs 5 and 11. I launched this concept here in New York in 2018, yes, here at the headquarters of UN, which is the concept to make equality the lever for all the SDGs. And it's not, and now we integrate this inside our audit to be sure that companies are thinking about it when they are making a general policy on gender, to be sure that there is an impact on the SDGs by gender and not just one SDG with the other. And the last news in our certification is in 2020, we had the AI concept. So we look through all the criteria of the certification if there are algorithms and if these algorithms are biased or not. So there is a specific audit made by a specific auditor to be sure that we are inclusive. So it was a point because I think it's important and it's a link with the previous intervention. So to date, in our club, we have 130 members including universities. So you are welcome to be member, major organization, of course, startup and NGOs and experts in the field of AI. Womenvai is signed this charter. So for us, defining values for a better world is essential. This is why we launched in January, so very, very short time, an experiment on changing values in the coding of algorithms with the steering committee with experts. So you have the picture of our experts, Majoud Majoud Beassin, president and founder of the Digital School Network. Gabriella Beled, she is a deputy at the Health Eye Authority in the French government, and she is president of Centrale Sucre au Féminin. So she's at the university. Laurent Depont, developer, director, Institute of Neurocognitivism. Henri Pierret, CEO of Wasati, is a very strong expert in AI. And Jean-Christophe Vidal, CEO of Connexio, recruitment in AI, and myself. Indeed, we know that AI is nothing more than putting our thought, behaviors, and system of organization into algorithms. AI is ultra fast, so it increases the model it has been given and becomes even more exclusive than in the world without AI. So our project consists in rewriting new codes of conduct, a new social contract, new rules of the game, new values, by banishes sexist, discriminatory, and humiliating languages, and promoting empathy, dialogue, listening, kindness, by balancing the so-called male values with the so-called female values. Values are expressed through words and expression that are themselves expression of a system of organization, a system of power. We're going to carry out our first experiment on recruitment and on a specific recruitment on leadership, because there is a place where there is power. Our methodology will enable us to extend the experiment to all linguistic fields and therefore to all domains, including, and above all, that of power, where everything is decided at the end. We want to change the world for a better one. We want to rewrite the new code of values. There is an emergency. So we want a world not based on a single vision, the vision of men, but on a vision shared by women and men in all their diversity. It's a big project, but we are together, so we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina, for your contribution. It's another way of talking about these issues, and it was very interesting for us. Then maybe in the end, we can also have some questions strictly related to the single contribution. I don't want to stop, each of us, even though because we are a bit late, but, we need to discuss. Otherwise, it's a self-representation of our knowledge, but we need to share our ideas and to bring some further contribution. So now I would like to ask Ruth Richard of the Netherlands for a presentation. And please, we have invited the list for, hi. You can come. Okay. We will share here. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here to speak to you all on behalf of INLW and also on behalf of Womenvai. I am Secretary General at the International Network of Liberal Women, and I am working on a project of women, girls' rights, and also on gender equality and climate justice. Today I wanted to talk about female leadership in water scarcity and sanitation. It seems to be a huge problem around the world, and also not only around the world, but in several countries. Women doesn't get the opportunity to get a chance to be a leader on positions like water management or leader in food systems for better food future, and also for teaching girls and boys at school. Water scarcity put women and girls at greater risk of violence and poverty, but also in injuries and illness by traveling to pick up water for their families. Also, women and girls do not have access to water on campus because the administration hygiene, but our campus is not valuable for them to use. So that's why they have problems with that, and also with bathrooms. Women and girls often affected by the adverse impacts of climate change, also upon the rights to water and sanitation. Women and girls are often the ones who are in charge of cooking, cleaning, and domestic work. They are often responsible for water management at household level. And if you look around you, even when it comes to food scarce, women are the first to go short. And even though if they don't have any food, they have to do without. So still I want to see and hope that one day the women will get equal voices when it comes to decision making, because they don't have the opportunity to get that one, and they're struggling very hard, especially when it comes to water and scarce sanitation, hygiene. It's very difficult for them to have the opportunity to get that far. Also want to talk about education, because education is one of the most important thing for our women and girls, not only in water management, but also in technique. Education often considered as the key to breaking the chains of poverty. If you look around you, women and girls in school show that better educated women participated more in the labor forces. And women and girls shows also to be healthier, and they have higher incomes. Women are able to provide children with greater access to education. Also, women and girls are empowered, the ones, especially the girls, through technology. Role of women in water management and technique provides them economic opportunities. If they get the opportunity to go in water management and get this better education for themselves, they will become one of the perfect world leaders, and also the leaders in water management, but also in educating their own girls and also the boys. I would like to present a video of a woman. Her name is Anita Soina. Soina have a foundation in Kenya, and she is a young girl from 23 years old, and started her foundation by a little bit of money, and to try to help the girls and boys in her community to get further. You see, 1 minute. Oh, Elisabetta, how can I get the film? Oh, how can I press the video?
The video.
Although you can go outside of. necessità di lanciare un video.
C'è l'audio.
No, il video, dovremmo lanciare il
Video.
video.
Ah, non è... Aspetta. Perché non è ipertestuale il collegamento. Cioè, non c'è... Vedi che non c'è il dito non... Beh, proviamo a metterlo aprire Google e metterlo su.
Ok.
Andiamo a fare la presentazione.
Esatto.
Yes. It's hard. Load on the volume. I'm still.
Not good. Yes, good.
It is.
Thank you. It's enough because we have the reading.
Oh, wedding. Wedding.
We can read.
And that is why I hope that we all can help these children, not only in Africa, Asia, South America, or Central Europe, but to help them with training and encouraging women, promoting female leadership in water management, decision making, and also in local government and clean water for hygiene. I also ask all of you to think about stimulating young women in water management because water gives them free production. Develop young women in technology, transfer and management skills. Also improving food security through women empowerment. Contribute to create strengthening networks for young women. And also make boys and men aware the importance of promoting water management and sanitation, but also a good, better education for all of them. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for your presentation and especially for this video. It was very amazing. And also, I really appreciate the sensitivity of people who are receiving education and the value that they're giving to it. And, you know, for their really perspective ideas of the value of education. Probably in our countries, in the Western countries, we do not appreciate what we have, but you know, a high appreciation is coming from the others where you know you record more difficulties in supplying some services of a big value. Thanks a lot for this reflection today. Many thanks. And I would like to ask Yora to have a representation. It's again another perspective. We'll share. Yona Panzano is from the USA, and please give a brief presentation of yourself and for topics. Thanks a lot.
Welcome, everyone. It is a greatest pleasure to be here today, and I would like to say thank you so much for Lydia for inviting me to this amazing organization, Yvette for accepting me as a member as well as a presenter today, and thank you so much for allowing us to be in this incredible spot in New York City. I'm truly privileged. So my friends, today I'd like to talk about effective tools for mainstreaming gender equality. We are during the conference here of the United Nations that we're talking about 17 different goals. And I'm going to touch up on goal number 5, gender equality. In this presentation, I will highlight some of the best, in my opinion, and most innovative tools and strategies for advancing gender equality. By show of hands, can you please tell me, do you remember where you were in 2018? Where were you in life? What was happening? What did you accomplish since then? You know, this is only 6 years. And do you realize that there's only 6 years till 2030? Which means that's how much time we have to realize these goals. Many of these goals, unfortunately, won't happen. And that's very sad, right? But we can look at this glass half empty, meaning, oh, there's not enough time. Or we can actually mobilize our powers and say, glass is half full, there is enough time. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is the most innovative tools. The first one is artificial intelligence, AI for gender analysis. So this tool, artificial intelligence, is changing how we tackle gender inequality in different areas. By using an AI to analyze big sets of data, organizations can spot and measure gaps between the gender in jobs, healthcare, education. This deep dive into the data helps create specific plans to bridge these gaps. For instance, AI now can be used to make job ads gender neutral, which means that no one will know who's applying, right? In thoroughly examine difference in pay across different sectors. Introducing an AI in these different fields help build a more welcoming space and pushes forward gender equality by identifying and dealing with the deep-rooted inequalities. Tool number 2 is a blockchain for empowering women entrepreneurs. This one here, technology blockchain, is becoming a key way to help women entrepreneurs get easy and safe access to money services. Its system allows everyone who have digital ID, which helps women without official IDs, use banking services and get loans. This is especially helpful in places where it's hard to use traditional banks. Blockchain gives women a secure way to handle their money, helping them become more financially independent and grow their businesses. It's a step forward in making the economy fairer and achieving gender equality. Number 3, we're talking about mobile learning platforms for education. The tool here is educational apps for women and girls in marginalized areas. So mobile learning apps are making it easier for women and girls in less privileged areas to get an education. These apps provide everything from reading and math lessons and technical skills training, all in one phone or a tablet. This way of learning is especially important in places where it's hard to get to a school because where it is located, or maybe because it costs too much. Many women and girls have used these apps to learn to read better, to study science and technology projects. These stories show how mobile learning can help people grow, get better jobs, and feel more empowered. Tool number 4, one of my favorites, so interesting, virtual reality for empathy building. So imagine that virtual reality is starting to be used these days in a new way to help people understand and feel more empathy for gender-related challenges. VR creates experiences, by putting those glasses on, right, that let people see the world through someone else's eyes, helping them understand deeply and care more about issues related to gender. This technology is being used for training in companies and by police forces to help fight hidden biases and increase awareness about gender differences. Some programs using VR have shown real improvements in how people understand and feel about gender equality, showing that VR can be a strong force for making social changes. And finally, probably one of the most impactful from the bucket that I chose today, it's Internet of Things for women's health. So the tool here is different apps and devices related to Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things devices are making a big difference in women's health by offering customized health tracking and smart insights. Wearable devices and other Internet of Things tools are changing how women keep an eye on their health, allowing them to check different health stats, allowing them to, in a real time, they can monitor everything. These gadgets are especially useful for tracking fertility and spotting health problems early, like breast cancer, for example. So by giving women the means to take charge of their health, Internet of Things devices are addressing health issues unique for women. This shows how technology can help improve health and support well-being. Each of these cutting-edge tools represents significant advancement in leveraging technology to support and enhance gender equality across different areas. I am grateful for you listening to this, and let's make these next 6 years the most impactful, and let's make a change. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your contribution. I really appreciate it, especially the investment in human capital. I mean, education is really fundamental for changing things and for changing our way of thinking how to recover the gender gap, and especially to have our role in society. I don't want to say a different role, but our role in society. Thank you very much indeed, for your contribution. Now I would like to ask to Zara Khan from the UCL, London, UK, to give her speech. Thanks a lot, Zara, for being with us.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Zara. Thank you, Elizabeth, for organising this wonderful event. I will keep my talk short and sweet, and I will basically talk about my experiences as a woman of colour in science, and some of the work that I do, and I'll try to keep it nice and positive. So we already know the statistics regarding women, and it's quite negative. And like you say, we have 6 years to go, and we're not on track, but we can pull together and actually get together and use our power to benefit society. So I'm just going to go and talk a bit about what I do. And education and collaboration is very important. It's been touched upon already. With Womenvai GRIP, which stands for Gender Responsive Resilience and Intersectionality in Policy and Practice, which was a 4-year collaboration project at UCL. We actually collaborated with Womenvai, and we ran workshops for students. And these workshops were designed across disciplines. So it's not just women in STEM, it's women in social sciences. So we could come together, and not just women, also men, to look at gender issues and apply a gender lens when we talk about sustainable solutions. GRIP actually has 3 main areas across Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And I will talk to you about some of the positive case studies that have come out from GRIP. But we have worked on reference guides as well within GRIP. These are tools that can be used by practitioners in the field of disaster risk reduction to for their training and education as well. So one of the key themes of GRIP is decolonialization. We know in academia, it's usually, especially in the West, academics are usually white, cis, old men, and we want to decolonize academia, and that means getting research from women of color, from the global South, and making sure that we collaborate so we can actually provide more knowledge and integrate this knowledge into our education system. We also ran the student workshops, which was really successful. We have students coming from different breadths of different disciplines, different genders, and applying a gender lens through everything. So just a bit about me, I'm actually a chemist. I've got my PhD in chemistry. I sort of got into gender issues through GRIP, and as someone who comes from a very technical role, being able to sort of do the work that I do and apply a gender lens to what I'm doing, change the way that I look at solutions. So for example, within chemistry, when we look at renewable energy, we need critical materials, we need critical elements. Where do we get those elements from? Where do we get the lab materials that we use? The supply chain, often we get the materials, and I'm sure everyone is aware, from Indonesia, from Africa. We know what's going on in Congo right now. We need those because we want to do the just transition. We want to move into renewable energy. Yeah, we don't think, oh, where are these elements coming from? Where are these materials coming from? And women on the ground in Africa, Asia, are the ones who are most affected by this. So it's about having this circular relationship, collaborating with social sciences and physical sciences, so the sustainable solutions that we often offer in the Western world are actually truly sustainable for everyone. So we also did student projects. We were able to take some students to COP last year, where they were able to highlight their projects, which was all about making sure that in higher education that we have these systems provided. So it's not just siloed and isolated disciplines, that we can all collaborate to come up with solutions that are actually going to benefit all people and not just the people in the West. I'm now just going to talk about some strategies. So obviously we look at mainstreaming gender. So like we say, it is SDG 5. However, mainstreaming gender is through all the SDGs. So it's not just one little thing. It should be at the forefront of everything that we do, because gender equality just not only benefits women, it benefits men, it benefits all of society. So these are just some projects from GRIP. I'll quickly mention some. So as I said, we have projects in Asia. So we developed a curriculum on DRR, and that meant that they've actually launched a curriculum for postgraduate students, which include a gender perspective. And this was done with the students, and students said, we want more gender in our curriculum. And now this is the second year running. So that's a success story. Looking at care infrastructure in Chile. So we already know that informal care economy, it's usually dominated by women. And what they have managed to do is get the women in the care economy together and actually work with policymakers to make sure that the care economy is taken seriously and policies are influenced. So they are then put into practice and people are more aware of the informal care economy and taking care workers seriously. And just another example is in Zimbabwe, we have these solar powered trikes. So now women have the skills to learn about solar power technology. And also these women can then ride these trikes to get from rural villages to the town centres to enable them to find work and become financially independent. Now, just talking about a bit about STEM. So like I said, I am a chemist, and women in science have, if you look specifically in the UK, which is where I'm from, women have, the women's statistics have increased. So yes, women are enrolling in science, technology, engineering and maths. However, the problem does not lie with the number of women studying, it's the retention. So there are people who don't necessarily graduate. From graduate, how much go on to postgraduate level, how much go on to PhDs, how much stay in academia and how much stay in industry. And that's a big thing. And that's something that I saw as a woman of color. So that sort of lends me into my second point, which is intersectionality. So women are not just a homogenous group. We have so many sects about us, disability, sexual orientation, religion, disability, race. There's so many things that define who we are. And how we are perceived in society. So one of the things that the UK saw was, especially within science, is that Black and ethnic minorities are very, do have a lot of barriers when it comes to maintaining in the scientific fields and the scientific workforce. So whereas there might be like 50–60% of students enrolled, the workforce is actually still only 26%. So I'm just going to briefly look at the policy that came up with Royal Society of Chemistry, which is broadening horizons in the chemical sciences. So this is something that I personally benefited from, and it was after they looked at the fact that chemists from minoritized racial and ethnic backgrounds face these systemic barriers. So a lot of them leave the profession following undergrads, and they go on to doing several different things. So they basically partnered up with loads of industry experts to encourage people from Black and ethnic minority backgrounds into science and to retain them into the field. And so that's how I became like a science writer, which I'm very grateful for the opportunity, because then once I get into the role, I was able to share research from women from the global south, and these are some of the work that I did. So from South Africa, from Brazil, and having representation is very important. When young girls see some people like them doing great things, they will be motivated and inspired to do the same. And having diversity in the workforce is important. I can tell you that my input has been very valued. And that just goes on to say that's why we should always aim to get women of colour, women with disabilities in the workforce, because they can really inspire and add so much value. And I'm now going to just go on to looking at the different SDGs. So we already know gender equality is an issue, gender inequality. We also know inequality within the countries is a big thing. So I have actually started my own company called Wonder Her. It's very new, and it is actually combining my passion for travel with my passion for gender equality. So what this will do is so women are already statistically more likely than men to do solo travel. So what I want to do is create a platform where women who travel can connect with women on the ground as drivers and as local guides to make travel safer, but also promote financial and economic empowerment to local women. I will pilot this in Zanzibar in Tanzania to also make sure that African countries are on the map and encourage tourism and encourage sustainable tourism, so women have the skills to be able to drive. I know, and also looking at ending sexual and harassment, because as a solo female traveler, we often have these problems. So not only is it benefiting the traveler, it's also benefiting the local community. Because as we heard yesterday, if you were there, that women who are empowered and prosper, they do not only just do it for themselves, they do it back to the community. So if you're interested in knowing more about my project, please scan and register your interest, and hopefully we could all work together to make the world a better place. So while we talk about big policy changes that are really difficult to attain, we all have the power within us to make small differences and try our best to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks a lot, Zara. I think that we are going to join your project, and congratulations for the idea and good luck for the future. It's really a very good thought, and I really appreciate it. And yes, you focus especially on the role of women in STEMs, and we need to work a lot on that. And no matter the burden, and also the area, because we really need to work on that, and the role that women can have in the society, especially with regard to the art topics. And thanks a lot, Zara, for your contribution. I would like to ask Agnes from Zambia to give a presentation, another area and the same topic, another way of thinking about this topic. And thank you for being with us today. Try to. What's you?
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Agnes. I'm coming all the way from Zambia.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm coming all the way from Zambia. Zambia is in the southern Africa. It's got a population of 20 million, approximately 20 million, close to 21 million. And out of that population, 10 million is female. Yeah, so my presentation this morning, I'll talk about the topic, but with the Zambian perspective. Yeah, so thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you to Yvette. I met Yvette 13 years ago. And from that time, we've been working together in other areas. So I'm very happy to be part of the Womenvai. And thanks a lot, Elizabeth. I'm very happy that I've met so many people here. This is my first time coming to the CSW, and I hope that I'll continue and I'll benefit out of it. So I'm going to talk about the Zambian perspective, strategies to mainstream gender equality and equity. So for Zambia, where we are coming from and where we are now in achieving strategic goal number 5. So I'll talk about some of the things that have contributed to the gender gap in Zambia. So these are some of the things that have really contributed. And the next slide, I think, will be on what measures the government has taken in order to reduce the gender gap between male and female. So in terms of education constraints, access to education, because some communities were prioritizing boys' education over the girls' education. So most of the girls were left out in terms of education. So we've got the gender stereotype. Certain subjects were for men, such as maths, science, were just for men, for boys, and not for girls. So as a result, the girl child was left behind. And in terms of early marriages as well, early marriages contributed, and pregnancies. These are some of the factors that hindered the girl education. So in terms of cultural norms, social and cultural norms, we had the gender roles. So most of the household chores were for girls, while boys had more time to do schoolwork. And then also the early marriage is also categorized in the cultural norm, where it was a priority to get married, and also childbearing for girls. And in terms of prejudice, so in terms of capabilities, men were generally considered more capable to do certain things. And then enrollment discrimination, women faced a lot of barriers to accessing certain professions in terms of enrollments, in terms of promotions, in terms of leadership. Yeah. So also I want to talk about leadership positions, gender biases, and societal expectation used to create hindrances for women seeking leadership roles, making it so difficult for them to participate fully in decision-making. So I'll talk about some of the initiatives that the Zambian government has done and where we are now. Sorry, so I'll in line with Sustainable Development Goal number 5. So the first one was the creation of the National Gender Policy. This was done in 2000. So in 2000, immediately after, I think the famous Benjamin, we saw the creation of the first gender department. And out of that, the National Gender Policy was formulated in order to enhance the gender equality and equity. The policy aimed at achieving full participation of both men and women in the development process. So the second one, it was a build-up from the first National Gender Policy that was created. So in 2014, there was another policy that was done. This one focused on strengthening the capacity of the gender machinery at national, provincial, and district levels. I think this, we saw more focus and allocation of funds to enhance the policy, establishment of platforms for improving protection of women's social, cultural, economic, and political rights. So out of this policy, we saw the Gender Equity and Equality Act number 22. This was revised, and it focused on strengthening the legal framework for the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women and girls. Yeah, so in 2022, also we saw the birth of the Children's Code Act number 12, which criminalizes child marriage and is inclusive of all children regardless of their status. So I think this was one of the actions that was taken in order to encourage girls to be in school other than going into early marriages. Yeah, so we've also seen the 8th National Development Plan, 2022 to 2026. This is also in line with the vision of 2030, with those sustainable development goals. So this one aims at attaining a prosperous middle-income nation, and gender was not left. So gender is part of this development plan as well. So in 2023, so we've seen all these national gender policies, but still there was a gap in terms of leadership for women. So we saw now last year, the 2023 gender national policy was launched. This one seeks to accelerate the attainment of gender equality and equity, enhancing the participation of women in economic activities through creating an enabling environment that provides equitable access of productive. So this is more in line with retention and full participation, providing enabling environments for women in order for them to attain their full potential. The other thing that has been included in the 2023 National Gender Policy is economic resources in conjunction with the private sector. So what are the achievements? After all these programs, policies, what are the achievements? So we've seen the increase in the completion rates of girls at both primary and secondary levels of education. We've also seen a reduction in child marriages. We've seen an increased awareness on gender matters. We've also seen increased participation of women in key decision-making positions and the appointment of the first vice president in Zambia, which we never saw in a very long time. And also the Chief Justice is female, and the Speaker of the National Assembly is female. So I could have taken more slides in terms of the statistics, but I'm just sharing. I'm just sharing the participation in terms of primary education. So this is the trend. If you can see, the girls are more participating in education. Yes. So in terms of primary education, tertiary education, I think we are doing well in Zambia. But the problem is still at leadership positions. I think this was one of the reasons why the 2023 national policy was launched, to accelerate the progress. Just as we have heard, we are remaining 6 years to reach 2030. So we need to have very deliberate measures in order to attain this. Yeah, so what is our goal? From being users to being decision makers. Yeah, power balance, increase in number of women. Yeah, so this is all I had to share. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, for your contribution. And again, there has been a lot of ideas and how to say things that are realities, not something that is in our mind. And I really appreciate again the investments in human capital. You know, I think that there is a really solution, especially for kids and for giving them a future, and especially you were mentioning the child marriage, you know, the early stage marriage exposed. And it is a topic on which we are talking a lot, or even in Europe, and we are feeling, you know, responsible, especially because sometimes Europeans are going in some areas where they are abusing kids, and it is a topic on which we need to talk about it. And so sustainable tourism, as Zara was mentioning with her project, I think it's really valuable, and it's something that really can change. Let's say not only the mind, but the realities. And I would like to know, by your point of view, if some of the paradigms that we are using in the best way can be useful for your country. I mean, do you think that the policymakers are really reacting to what we would like to do? Or they say, you know, it's just something as surface, just because they would like to adopt, but in real terms, it's a very slow process. What do you think about your reality? Are the policymakers really accepting these new paradigms, these new ideas, or not? It's just a surprise. What do you think about it? Just for being politically correct.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of focus from the policy makers, but the implementation is a bit on the slow side. So as gender advocates, I think we need to be on them and ensure that those things are being done. You know, it's one thing to have policies, but it's another thing to do the implementation. Yes.
We need to work on that side.
We need to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Agnes, for your contribution. It's another way of thinking, another area where we need to work and to bring some changes. Now I would like to ask Yvette Ramos, invited the list of contribution. She is the president of Womenvai, and we had the idea of having this joint event, but I mean, we are sharing a lot of things with Yvette and the Womenvai, and are really happy about what we are doing, and we can do better, even more. And but anyway, I will give the floor to Yvette for her final contribution. Our speech of today. I will give some support.
So we are nearly there. We will do a break in a few moments, don't worry.
Thanks, Ella.
Thank you so much, Elisabetta. This has been a great opportunity for me to, of course, introduce the Womenvai for those who don't know, and I see that there are many new faces in this room, so I'm very happy. In fact, today we're talking about strategies. Strategies is basically the key path from where you start today until the next 5, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years. As we don't have the crystal ball, somebody has a crystal ball? No, we don't know about the future, but we can always try to envision what is the future. And there are many authors who scientific and non-scientific, by the way, authors since ages, and some of them are very famous, wrote books in sociology, in economics, and social science, etc. And what one group of authors that I like is Norton and Kaplan, who have applied, in fact, the balanced scorecard methodology tool in many companies. It's they have wrote the books that link basically the change, because if you say today I take a picture, tomorrow after 2030, because we are already there, like you all said, I mean the agenda is already there, agenda 2030, we know already that we are not going to hit the 0% poverty in the world, etc. And of course the gender balance, we are far from what we wish we could have. And actually the UN General Assembly, as you know, is already committed to the Summit of the Future to include youth. We are not, some of us, much youth, but we would like to be youth and stay young with all of you, students and non-students that are here, because I believe that youth is not in the age, but it's in the mind, like all of you, of course. But they are convening the Summit of the Future this year. And actually, we're going to, together with Elisabetta, maybe you have submitted it already, some proposal for side events at the occasion of UN Science Summit. And we hope to be back to New York in the occasion of the 79th, I think, this year, General Assembly 2024 in September. And together with a Future of Summit that is thinking after 2030. But there are key principles, and Norton and Kaplan has put that in the right place. And some of you, Dr. Christina Lungi, and some of you ladies, Ruth, Agnes, Professor Elisabetta, of course, Zara Khan, Lydia Zakowska, Miss Yola, you all said something that is very key. We have to have that in our values. If we want to have the real gender balance and equality and equities, we have to have that in our values through education. And we have to have, and these are the key principles, the leadership, the right leadership at the right place. And we know how much it hurts countries when we don't have the proper leadership at the right place, the proper leader with the good values at the right place. And some of us, by the way, suffered that, and not entering into geopolitics, but I can see some people from, well, from Portugal myself, from Italy, of course, from Poland, and some other countries who have suffered for bad leadership in the past and still today. So once you have the right leadership and you can translate and you have a vision, you know where you want to be. We take a picture today, you would know what you want to be in the coming 5-10 years. So you don't have a crystal ball, but you can envision what you would like to achieve. And this is basically the Sustainable Development Goals that we know that 2030 will not be there. But then we try to translate this into operational plans or actions, initiatives, programs, etc. And of course, as long as you have the budget, the resources, human resource, financial resource, infrastructural resource, you can then align your principles, your strategy, and your actions all together. And you can, of course, try and have everybody engaged in that action plan. So if we summarize very quickly, and if we still say that we have hope until 2030, we can still build a strategic plan. And this is at your own level, individual. You can set this up for your family, for your group of friends, sports. You give you some key objectives. You can do that, of course, at an organization, be it public or private, institution, research, whatever. In gender, of course, because we are trying here to speak about gender equality, but it works for any type of theme, of course, of topic. So we've applied that, for example, at my level as a professional of hydrometeorological and climate services. We try to apply that at national levels in many countries with meteorological services. So we envision together what we want to achieve. We establish the strategy, the path, the way forward. We co-design it, and then we deliver an implementation roadmap. And of course, this is when, as you know, as you have been talking about that since the past 2 hours now, we have the strategic indicators, the KPIs, the key performance indicators. You call them as you wish, but we have to set our goals and we have to value those goals, you know. So then, of course, you have to, and this is the beauty, what I think is the beauty of the Norton and Kaplan methodologies, that you don't look only at the financial numbers, the quantitative, the money you're going to get out of it. But you also build a strategic map thinking, oh, what's the human perspective, the human capital perspective? They have to put capital somewhere, no? Those Americans. But in fact, you look at the human effect. If you build that objective, what will be the impact on the process of my organization? Of course, on the finance or on the budget, on the operations, on the marketing and the client satisfaction, if we call it the beneficiary satisfaction, and on the human capital. Many tools to do the assessment, because when you want to go from 2024 to 2030, sorry, you have to start by a good diagnosis. It's like when you go to the doctor, you know something is happening that is not happening well in your body or your mental health or whatever. And this person, the doctor, will help you do the diagnosis, but you have the information somehow. So he's going, if he's good, try to do the diagnosis, build the diagnosis with you. And this is really the first thing that we need to have, a good diagnosis on where you stand today to build the better for tomorrow. And these are the SWOT analysis tools. I'm not going to go into details. Google gives you a lot of information on how to build that, but basically you're going to provide the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats for the situation as of today. Once you have that, the status of today, once you have the picture of where you want to go tomorrow, when you want to be tomorrow, then it will be easy to draw the path from today to tomorrow. And this is what we call strategic planning. And here are just a few slides on, and we did that in the ministry a few years ago, ministry with a Eurosocial program with the ministry in Mujeres of women in Mexico. They have a standard, by the way, a quality standard that Christina here mentioned somehow. And we have conducted an analysis, where do they stand with their indicators and how they can progress. And we built together a strategy map. So you have a list of indicators. This is really the first step, because once you have the assessment, you have the indicators, you have your goals, you want to go to the next step, and then you build the strategic plan with some strategic objectives. So each of these, I would say, circles, bubbles are objectives from the capital, human capital perspective, from the process perspective, from the finance or budget or any economic issue perspective, and finally from the beneficiaries. And once you have achieved all these goals that are here, and we won't enter into the detail, this is just an example, of course, then you should be arriving to what we call your vision. The vision is basically the picture of what you want to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years, for example. So I'm ready to have, of course, your questions. We don't have so much time. We're going to close now, actually, and I'll give back the speech to Elisabetta. This was just a snapshot on how to build your strategic map, but we hope that together with you all and this group of experts in gender equality, we can work together in achieving that at your university, faculty, organization, public or private level. Thank you very much. Grazie mille.
we would need a contribution as well. Well, I don't want to draw conclusion because it's really impossible, and I think that the current issues is a very complex one, and I think that each of us gave indications on what it is possible to do. The reality is very complex, it's difficult, but we need to work on that in order to change. Firstly, the mentality. And this is the first point. So we need really to invest in education, firstly, I believe, and then on the way people are really thinking. I don't know if there is a really very or a unique receipt in order to change things, but we need to take into consideration the peculiarities that each area has in order to have a proper policy solutions. So I am really happy of all the contributions that came today from different geographical areas around the world. And we had a very clear idea of the differences that we are recording on which we can work. And I am really happy about what we did today. I think that we have some room for working still on the topic. But I really hope that the next time we can collect some results from what we need from what we suggested to policymakers in order not to discuss still ideas, but just to collect some results. Now I would like to thank Istituto Italiano della Cultura for giving us the possibility of being here today. It was very quick, the organization, but absolutely efficiently. And so I would like to thank in particular by Malina, of Istituto Italiano della Cultura, and in particular the director, Fabio Finotti, who is the director and Professor Emeritus of the University of Pennsylvania. And really, you. And
you need to be in the video.
Okay, thanks, Maria.
Thank you, grazie.
For getting us. And I really, I mean, it's the kindness. It's not only institutional way of doing, and I think that everything is coming from the art firstly, and then from what we can do, even so far away. Bari.
Grazie a voi.
And also,
Yes,
this
beautiful.
this more official gift for Istituto Italiano di Cultura. It's a gift from the University of Bari. It's an historical book that we give just for institutional reasons, and I was really happy of bringing this for the Institute and for the director of Istituto Italiano di Cultura. Grazie per l'ospitalità e per il cuore che mettete in tutto quello che fate. Grazie.
Grazie a voi. Facciamo una foto così la Yeah, I think. Shall we cut the recording?
We can stop it recording.
In fact, there are a few gifts that, and we would like to take a photo, please. This is my book.
Oh,